Everyone. So my name is Julien Demierre. I work as a software-defined data center architect at EPFL, and I'm glad to be on the stage today to share my open networking experience, customer experience.
So this is how this presentation will flow. This will mainly be Julien's show. Julien will introduce what is EPFL, it's a university, what are they doing there, and then why a public university chose to deploy an open source operating system, right? And remember, they made this choice 3 years ago. So today it may look like, sound like an obvious thing, which is good because a lot of people are deploying Sonic. When they made that decision, not many people were doing it. So they will explain their reasons for choosing Sonic. And then Julien will share with you the EPFL fabric architecture. I think with my movement, I'm disturbing the cameraman, so I'll try not to move a lot. And then I will come in and I will talk about the migration strategy that EPFL adopted for this. So I worked with Julien. I was the partner in crime with Julien and Eric, and we devised this migration strategy together. We're sharing it here because we think that some other customers can also benefit from that. I'll also talk about some of the contribution that Broadcom has done for deploying Sonic at scale. And then I'll hand over to Julien, who will talk about the orchestration of a large fabric, and he will also talk about some of the day-to-day improvements EPFL have seen running Sonic. So they used to run a different OEM-based solution. Now they're running Sonic. It's been 3 years. They are good candidate to share their experiences with you. And that's how the session will flow. So over to you.
Thank you, Kamran. Yeah, all good. So EPFL is a high technical school based in Lausanne in Switzerland. We have more than 3,500 students, almost 400 professors, and we are more than 6,500 staff members. Our software-defined data center team are in charge of providing centralized IT resources to the community. We do that through a self-service portal, and we provide VMs, load balancer as a service, containers, as well as storage like volume NAS and S3 buckets. Behind the scene, we use hardware and software innovative solution on the market to reach that goal. Why do we go with an open networking solution at EPFL? So in 2020, a brand new data center was built at EPFL on the campus, and our team was got the requirement to provide the network connectivity on this data center. We were locked for years with a unique network vendor, and here that was the time our management decided to move on and tried some open networking solution. So we wanted something that a NOS that could run in multiple hardware sold by multiple vendors. We wanted as well for this solution an advanced telemetry and the capability to innovate and use based on the standard of the industry. And yeah, guess what? Sonic checked all these boxes. Okay, I lose something there. Let's go. Here we have a high-level design of the Sonic architecture we put in place in the data center. On the bottom, that's the brand new data center we put in place in 2020, and the 2 other data centers we have in the campus. In order to reduce the number of inter-DC links, fibers, we decided to go with a border leaf approach. So we call it border pod. There are 2 border leaf per DC, and if we need more bandwidth within the fabric between the DCs, we only had some interfaces and some links between them, so between the border leaf. This border leaf handle as well the layer 3 BGP external connectivity to reach the network campus. Network, yep. So if we zoom in a bit in one of the DC, here we go to the DC CCT, the brand new one. Here we have 2 pods. In our terminology, a pod is a row of 16 racks, and each rack's got 2 Tor leaves. In our case, it's switches with 32 times 100 gig interfaces. And each of these leaves are connected to 4 spines. The spines are 32 times 400 gigs interfaces. We use the breakout capability to do that job. And it means that per rack, we have an uplink of 800 gigs to the spines. We have a 5-tuple topology, and the super spines here on the top provide the capability to increase the number of pods and rack. So if we have a 3rd pod, we can have it and just connect it to the super spines. And that's where we speak on the latest slide about the border pod and the border leaf doing the connectivity to the external world and to the other DCs within the fabric. So we sit on the right inside here. I will hand over to Kamran for the migration strategy.
Thank you, Julien. All right. So migration strategy. So this is where, as I said, I work very closely with Julien and Eric, the infrastructure architect there, and we devised this migration strategy. We sat together, and then we identified what are some of the key requirements for EPFL for migration. Number 1 requirement was EPFL wanted a phased approach. They did not want a big bang. Number 2, they wanted to use virtualization. They have lots and lots of virtualization, thousands of VMs running in the network. They wanted to leverage VM motion functionality for their migration. And a third thing was, as you can imagine, these type of migration, they always involve some downtime. So the next question we had was, okay, what is an acceptable outage or downtime for your business which you can bear? And the answer was, as long as the downtime is within 1 minute, we can work with that. So with these guiding principles, we started working on a migration strategy. What you see on this board, on this slide, is the topology of this migration that we used. You can see there is layer 2 and layer 3 connectivity between the legacy network and the new Sonic fabric. Why we have layer 2 connectivity? Because that is what we will use for vMotion. Why we have this layer 3 connectivity? That is how we're doing the BGP pairing. That is how we're doing all the routing. If we double click on this migration strategy, you will see what are the different steps we took. So step number 1 was to extend the VLAN to the Sonic fabric. Say you had VLAN number 10, which you wanted to migrate from your legacy network to your new Sonic fabric. What you will do, first step is you would enable that VLAN on that layer 2 link. On the legacy side, it's simply adding that VLAN on the trunk link. On the new Sonic fabric, you add it to the trunk link, but you also create the VNI and all the VXLAN parameters for it. Next step is, once you have created this layer 2 VLAN, you can migrate your VMs from your legacy network to the new network. When you do this vMotion, how much downtime do you expect? Answer is 0. Because vMotion works really, really well. So there was no downtime this is something we tested in the, when we were validating the strategy. This is something we tested during the actual production migration as well. So no downtime at this stage. When you are at this position, now remember, your VM has moved to the new data center, to the new infrastructure, but the default gateway still resides in the old data center, which means that there can be some trombooning during this time. You're with me on that, right? So if you are talking if you were talking between 2 subnets, the traffic will have to go all the way from the new data center to the legacy data center to its default gateway, get routed, and come back. But it's okay because it was only a transition phase. Once 50% or more workloads were migrated, at that point, Julien did the default gateway migration. That is the point where you will see some outage, right? Because you are moving, this is a routing change. So what you're doing is essentially you are moving that subnet, the same IP address that you had configured on the legacy network, in this case it was configured on the Nexus switch, it was moved to the, the sub-interface on the Nexus was shut down, and the same IP was now advertised from the new Sonic fabric. This is a routing change. There will be some convergence. We were expecting, during our validation, we saw around 6-second outage at max, which was still much better than 1 minute, which was allowed to us. But I will have to give a lot of credit to Julien. Now, I've got a lot of gray hairs that I'm hiding. I've seen many of these migrations, but Julien and the team, they did a fantastic job, as good as it gets when you talk about migration. Because in their migration, in the live migration over multiple weeks, we never saw an outage for more than 2 to 3 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds. This is a really, really good result in my view. So both the colleagues, congratulations, you did a very good job. Anybody who is doing these type of migration, I would recommend have a chat with Julien and the guys. They'll be happy to share their experiences. Now, we talked about one particular migration of one particular VLAN, but EPFL had literally thousands of VLANs. How do you do these type of things at scale? The answer is you have to have automation. Now, we at Broadcom, we have done a lot of contribution to Sonic, but one of the contributions that I'm really proud of is this management framework contribution. This management framework that Broadcom developed for Sonic and upstreamed it, it's a very flexible framework which allows you to access your Sonic switches using CLI, using RESTconf APIs. You can use GNMI for that as well. So there are multiple options. And we see that our ecosystem partners have developed many automation solutions around that. You can class them in 2 different categories. One is what we call agentless management options. You see solutions from, for example, Beyond Edge. They have a orchestration solution called Varity. Actually, they are presenting right now as we speak in the other hall. They have a good solution. It's agentless. AT&T has made a solution based on this, working with us on this management framework. And there is also an agentless orchestration solution. So they just use the APIs to manage your Sonic switches. There is no agent or container running on the switch for orchestration. But some ecosystem partners have chosen a different technique where they are running an agent. For example, AOS has adopted this approach. So you're doing automation in whatever way. There are pros and cons for that. Julien has run this automation, has done orchestration for many years now, for 3 years. They have used AOS as well as the DevOps tool. So let's hear from them what is their experience of what are the pros and cons of each approach.
Thank you, Kamran. Yes. So to manage all these switches on our 3 data centers, we needed a solution. There were 2 approaches, as Kamran said, with the agent or without the agent. It's more based on the switches, but for an orchestration point of view, we have a commercial solution. We pay for a commercial solution, or we can go with a DevOps approach using, for example, Ansible. At EPFL, we choose to go with the commercial solution called Abstra. Indeed, we needed to provide services, multiple services were waiting on our network fabric, and we needed a short time to production, and that was definitely the way to go for us. And as well, we are only 2. Patrice is here, he's my colleague, and we are 2, so it's a small team to manage everything. And we wanted a single pane of glass solution where we can configure and see everything. And the configuration is based on the standard of the industry as well. Oh yeah, 5 minutes. Kamran, you took a bit longer than expected. Okay, so I will go fast. For us, the main cons of this commercial solution is that we are locked with the vendor. what we are not anymore with the switches, but we are with the commercial solution, so it's a bit of the snake eating his tail. We are waiting for them to validate the latest version, so we are stuck with some older version with this solution. And as well, we have to check always the compatibility. And yeah, we have agent on the switches, as we said earlier. On the other end, we have the Ansible, so DevOps approach. And for that part, definitely the best point is the costs are reduced. We don't have to pay licenses like we do for Abstra. And we can, as the new version of the switch is GA, we can install it and embrace the brand new feature, which we can not with the commercial solution. But for us, there were a number of cons, and for the management, it was in terms of the support, because we rely on the community, and it was not enough. Even if the community is wonderful, it's not enough for our management. So we need the commercial support, and it's a do-it-yourself. There is no pre-check of the configuration. If you send something bad, you can break the thing. It's not validated with the designs. And if you have to take away one slide today, make it this one. So we are running for 3 years now in production with Sonic on our 3 data centers. And for us, definitely is lower cost with the OEM solution. We have a reduced power consumption as well. At EPFL, we aim to reduce our carbon footprint, and it starts at the hardware level. For the performances, definitely Broadcom and ASIC have always the highest bandwidth and always the first to provide them, so it's great to go. And with the multi-vendor, we have short lead times and competitive pricing, because there is no more a monopoly from one of the vendor. The benefit from Sonic and Orchestration, definitely the automation. We can provide services through the switches and through the racks in seconds. We don't have any configuration mismatch. It's always compliant and based on the standard. And the flexibility that provides Sonic domains, let's go. It's an easy scale up in terms of we can replace the switches in places seamlessly with new models. We can increase the uplinks and the bandwidth within the fabric between live and spines. And as well, in terms on the server side, we have a standard base of 25 gigs, but because the switch are 32 times and 100 gigs, we can increase and go up to 100 gig without having to change the hardware of the switch as well. Yeah, just for you to know that we are heavy consumers of VMware product, and with Sonic we could put in place a new approach and new configuration, which allow us to have high availability and redundancy on our 2 main data center for the tier 0. We have active, and it's a great, huge improvement for our VMs. Okay, for call for action, 50 seconds. Let's go. We just want to say that after 3 years, we are deeply convinced that Sonic is enterprise ready, and we gain confidence, high availability, high bandwidth using open networking solution.
And you can look at everything that Julien was saying. It's all written, it's documented, it's available on Julien's blog. You can access that. You can get a lot of configuration, configlets, etc. there as well. And if you want to learn more about how to configure Sonic switches, you can watch my YouTube channel. It's called Love to Network. Thank you very much.